I
Hmm.
get it for sure. But well, it's great to meet you. I really enjoy your story. I think what you're doing is very essential to a lot of people that are looking to get healthier and better in their lives and something they overlook. So I'm looking forward to getting into it. I appreciate you taking a minute out today. And I want to begin our conversation with 4 years ago, we were trying to figure this pandemic out. How long is it going to last? The ramifications. How did you get through that time period, and how did it change the way that you approach your work?
I think for healthcare providers, it changed our work radically because I think all of us who had any sort of practices went virtual.
Yeah,
And it was one of those fields where I think a lot of people said I would never be able to do my work virtually. I need to see my clients, touch my patients, whatever it might be. And I think we've done a really good job across the board um, servicing our clients. But not only that, now we can bring the work that we do to underserved areas. I see a lot of people from, I won't name any places, but places in the country that just don't have good access to medical care, and not medical care like standard Western care, but someone who's willing to dig deeper and look for root causes.
yeah.
Not someone who's willing to hand them a prescription for Linzess or tell them to take Miralax, but who actually will delve into the 8 causes of constipation and why people are sick, and how it's impossible to heal if you don't understand why you have the symptom in the first place.
So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do for a living so people understand. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third grade students at career day. One of the curious kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I help people poop better.
Okay. That's
That's what I
that's
do. I wrote
okay.
an ebook called Start Pooping Better, and you can download it for free at startpoopingbetter.com. That is one of my goals. Is my real goal is better health for everybody every
Yeah,
day. That is my like what I really hold near and dear. But I can't help anyone heal until they poop well.
right. And
So
you
that's why I'm here doing the work that I'm doing, because everyone who comes to me, which are the majority of my clients are women, though I do work with men. The majority of my women clients are aged 40 to 65, though I
yeah,
do have some younger and I do have some older, right? But that's sort of the meat and potatoes of who I work with. And when they come to me, usually they're undiagnosed. Usually they've had a slew of Western medical tests, all of which are normal. Usually their doctors say something like, you must just be tired. You need an antidepressant, right? Or maybe, maybe it's in your head. I
yeah.
was told that my very self. And so when they come to me, the first thing I ask is, how are you moving your bowels? And usually the answer is not very well. And so we always have to start our work there. Before you can kill anything in the body, I don't care what it is, you've got to move your bowels well, because if you can't get it out, you're going to retox yourself,
Yeah,
essentially. Dying bacteria, dying parasites emit poisons,
yeah,
toxins. They're
yeah,
not happy about dying.
yeah. Right.
They make you sick.
Yeah, of course. So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
I wanted to be, I think, well, maybe back in the third grade, I wanted to have a bunch of horses. I never had my own horse. I'm not really a horse person, so I'm not really sure. I think it was just the people that I hung out with. Then I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Okay.
And then I wanted to be in medicine starting when I was 16. My dad got diagnosed with cancer when I was 16, and it really changed the way that I looked at what was important in the world, right? If you didn't have your health, you didn't have anything.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, I was really interested in his cancer care. He wound up passing away after 4 years of lung cancer. And I remember being at a doctor's appointment with him, at his oncologist, and I was asking about this chemotherapy. I was very skeptical. And the doctor said, well, it's really all we've got, but I can tell you it's like dropping an atomic bomb on an ant, because not only do we kill the ant, but we wipe everything else out.
Hmm.
And from that moment on, I thought to myself, that doesn't make any sense. And there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
I feel like the way that Western medicine has deconstructed the body, it's a reductionist type of philosophy where you go to one doctor if your throat's sore, a different doctor if you have a bellyache, a different doctor if your knee hurts. And it could all be one thing causing all three of those things. but nobody takes into account anymore the whole person, and not only the whole person physically, right, but the whole person spiritually and emotionally. When was the last time your doctor asked how you were doing emotionally? Probably not,
Yeah.
right? Maybe they'll say, like, are you under a lot of stress if you come in for high blood pressure? And the answer, of course, who's not under stress? But functional medicine, practitioners of functional medicine really are, and that's across the board, whether they're doctors or nurses or acupuncturists or coaches, considering the whole person and looking deep to find the root cause so that we can help people heal there.
The thing that's the strangest about medicine, there's a lot of things that really hex me about Western medicine. The low infant mortality rate. There's all these things that we're low on the list of, but at the very cellular level, the thing that blows me away is that we're taught our whole lives to be punctual. Get there on time. Chronically in the world of medicine, the minute they walk in the room, even if they did ask you how you're doing, someone's going to be like, my God, you had me waiting for 30 to 45 minutes to see you for 60 seconds, and you're going to run out of here like a cartoon coyote. Like it's just that there is your entrance. And I think about it even in the way of education. My son's on the spectrum. And whenever he always likes riding the bus. Whenever he gets on the bus and whenever he gets off the bus, it's a wonderful experience. And if we treated medicine like that up front, and they got in there punctually and acted like they didn't have to run off to put out 200 or 300 fires, I think we would already feel a little better about it. And then also you have this thing where everything's farmed out. You don't have somebody that really looks at you holistically. So I mean, I could go into all kinds of rabbit holes, but at a minimum, just the fact that we have to wait around and get like very minimal time is very strange to me.
Well, doctors have really become, and this is going to be very controversial to say, but a lot of doctors have become pharmaceutical reps.
Yeah,
You go in, you hold out your hand, you tell them your complaint, you get a piece of paper, you take it to the drugstore, their job is done.
that's it. Yeah,
That's not health.
no. So, how did you get to this point? Take me back to where you were born and raised. I know at 16 you got interested in medicine, but what were the seminal seeds that were planted in you early on that gave you this idea of wanting to help people and to medicinally get people to the proper place in their lives?
Well, first, I'm a Virgo. So if you know anything about Virgos, I am very Virgo. But on a serious note, so I think no, it was 16 when my dad got sick. Definitely was my first introduction. And in fact, my very first job was working on weekends in the radiology department of the local hospital. So I was there, I was listening, I was learning, I was, peering through charts and looking at x-rays and tons of interesting stuff. And I knew I wanted to be somewhere in medicine. I went to college at Boston University and got sidetracked by a lovely little sport called rowing. That is what I say that's what I majored in college. Though I was in the School of Education and I got a very good education on being an educator, which I feel like as a health professional, as a healer, most of my job is truly education,
Yeah.
right? I'm just teaching people what I've learned, the tricks that work, the how to uncover your root cause, right? It's just education. And that was very important in my training. And then when I was in college in that sport of rowing, I slipped in the boat bay and I broke a vertebrae in my back.
Wow.
And I had problems for a year, all of my junior year. And it was shortly after my dad had passed away. My dad passed away in February. I broke my back in late March. And if you know anything about chakras, where the heart chakra is, behind the heart chakra lies your thoracic vertebrae. And that was what I broke. And the doctor said, it's really strange. No one ever breaks that area of their spine. Made a lot of sense. After a year of pain, I got no relief. I was told by countless doctors that I was fine, yet I couldn't sleep through the night. My PMS was off the hook. I had terrible migraines and I couldn't touch my toes without pain, but I was fine. By luck or by chance, I wound up at an acupuncturist's office in Brookline, Massachusetts, who came into my life and just did a whole number. Like in 3 treatments, I was so much better. The second treatment that I had with him, he put a few needles in and the floodgates unraveled, and I spent maybe an hour and a half sobbing on his table. And he came and he was just so gracious, and he came in and he said, sometimes this happens. It's a healing reaction. You've got to let it out. I don't need this room. Go for it.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. And I thought, if I could help someone heal the way that I just experienced healing, my work is done.
What a great story.
So I went to acupuncture school, which was amazing and brilliant and a hard struggle, all of that great stuff. Practiced for a number of years, got back into rowing on a semi-professional level for a little bit. That's where I met my husband, who's a 3-time Olympian in the sport. Um, and then um, I'm too passionate and curious about too many things. I started a few companies that were very disparate and not related at all: a kids art company, a stationery design company, a social media marketing company. But in 2009, with 2 tiny little boys, I woke up one morning and my left arm was numb. And I thought, that's interesting. Maybe I slept on my neck wrong.
Yeah.
And by the end of the afternoon, my left leg was numb. Not the afternoon. By the end of the morning, my leg was numb. And I said to my husband, I think I need to go to the doctor. Something feels not right. So he was with the kids. I drove myself to the doctor. By the time I got in for my appointment, my face was numb. Drove myself to the hospital, stayed there for 3 days, had a million tests. The only thing that was abnormal was that my white blood cell count was low. But my scans, my CTs, they looked at my brain. They thought, we're not sure. Maybe something's happening. Maybe you're on the verge of getting something. So I was followed by a neurologist for 6 months. I was released from the hospital with a little bit of numbness, had a week of headaches, had a week of really bad fatigue, and then it was gone.
Hmm.
That was like, I think, May. And then by the middle of the summer, I started to get weird GI problems, weird pains in my stomach. I can remember it vividly. It was like the size of a golf ball, it felt like, and they would move. And I was scoped and prodded and poked. I swallowed a camera for a study. I had it all done and nothing was wrong. Subsequently, tons of symptoms. I would wake up and my wrist would almost be immobile. It would be swollen and inflamed. Lots of headaches, mostly fatigue, horrendous fatigue. And so I wound up at Mayo Clinic for a week, left there with the diagnosis of chronic fatigue, which I always laugh at that because it's not a diagnosis. It's just a description of how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Very frustrated. And it wasn't until I found a functional medicine doctor who first diagnosed me with heavy metal poisoning. I had very high levels of mercury. We did a bunch of chelation to get rid of that. And when my levels came down and I wasn't feeling better, she went to a chat group that she was a part of, and someone said, this sounds just like Lyme disease. And she said, no, 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 she's been tested 3 times for Lyme disease. And they said, at which lab? And so it had been, I was tested at Mayo Clinic in their lab, standard testing, tested at LabCorp with their standard test, all negative. And when I had proper Lyme disease testing, it lit up. Further investigation with a specialist in Lyme disease, I not only had Lyme disease, but I had a couple of other bacterial infections, because ticks don't normally just give you one infection. They give you a few gifts.
Yeah.
So I had Lyme disease, Bartonella babesia, and Rocky Mountain spotted fever.
Wow.
Treated those for a number of years, had a massive amount of antibiotics, and wound up with a very tough case of constipation that I could not crack. My gut was a disaster. And it wasn't until gut testing and learning what was there that wasn't supposed to be and what was essentially missing, which I had wiped out all of the good life in my gut, did I really start to make some progress in healing.
Wow.
So
That's
gut
crazy.
health, yeah. So that was, and I still continued. I still had a few relapses. My life has been a little nuts. In 2016, my house burned down. And in 2017, I had a little relapse with Lyme disease. But since then, I've been pretty good and feeling really strong. I did a lot of detox work, working on some mold that I had, some heavy, like some toxic mold that was stuck that we moved, and a lot of parasites. And that was another level up for me. It was a game changer.
How have you kept your chin up this whole time? How have you kept that mentality that you see the light at the end of the tunnel and it's going to be okay.
There's no other option. What if it's not? I mean, there's only I had two little boys. I still have two. I have two teenage boys.
Yeah.
Um, Healing is possible. Our bodies want to heal. We just have to get out of the way and stop giving ourselves toxic things, trying to
Yeah.
kill everything. And I think with Lyme disease, with chronic Lyme disease, we're so focused on killing and not focused enough on supporting the body, starting with making sure people can poop well and that they're digesting well and they're absorbing nutrients. If you can't do that, that's the basis for energy, right?
Yeah. So who's been a hero for you? Who's been somebody that's been inspirational for you to keep a positive outlook?
Hmm, that's a good question. I don't know if I've ever been asked who my hero is. I probably my functional medicine doctor, who's now one of my dearest friends. Um, she continues to inspire me to keep doing this studying that I'm doing, um, treating me like a peer, even though she's an MD and I'm just an acupuncturist by training. I spoke in May to 1,500 practitioners, doctors, nurses on a national stage about constipation, about how we do understand why people are constipated. Please don't tell your patients we don't understand. We know why you're constipated. It just takes time to go through all of those 8 causes and help to people to figure out which one of them is driving their constipation. It's why I'm getting off track, but it's why drinking more water doesn't work for everybody, right? People
Right.
say just drink more water if you're constipated. Sure, if you're dehydrated, that's definitely going to help. But if that's not the root cause of your constipation, if your liver is dysfunctional, if you've got fatty liver and you're not releasing enough bile, drinking water ain't going to help you, right? So um, her name's Dr. Kate Thompson, and she really, I guess, showed me the way that was outside of the Western medical thinking. Even though I was trained in Chinese medicine, which is the original root cause thinking, they always talked about treating the root so that the branches would be healthy, which always made so much sense to me.
Yeah.
Um, but she's the one. I'm proud to walk alongside her.
So if you could meet one person alive on the planet that you find fascinating or interesting, or that you could get something out of them, who would it be?
So without a doubt, there's a researcher out of MIT. Her name is Dr. Stephanie Seneff. She just wrote a book called A Toxic Legacy.
Yeah.
Um, it's about the weed killer glyphosate. Do you know glyphosate?
Yeah. Yeah.
Most people don't, and I'm always stunned at how many people don't know what glyphosate is. But glyphosate is the weed killer, otherwise known as Roundup,
Yep.
and it's being sprayed on our crops, and it's destroying our gut health. So she talks about that and a lot of other things, but about how glyphosate is doing a number on our health in this
Yeah.
book, and it needs to be banned in this country is the bottom line.
Yeah.
So I would
What
love to meet her and just pick her brain.
Yeah, that would be fascinating. What has been one of your favorite or one of the more magnanimous client success stories you've had so far?
Well, I have a current client who is just hilarious. She's 62 years old and she had a page of symptoms, everything from weird tingling and neuropathies in her feet to migraine headaches to often had nausea, lots of weird constipation issues, um, tons of rashes, uh, grinding her teeth, like just all over the board, and we're 6 weeks in now. So the first 4 weeks of working together, we're working through a detox protocol with her. And so the first 4 weeks, we worked on what we call opening drainage pathways, which is making sure that people are pooping, peeing, and sweating well. A lot of people have those shut down. If you talk to people who don't sweat well, it's not a great sign. People are like, oh, I never sweat. You need to be sweating. But anyway, so she opened her drainage pathways beautifully, and she is passing tons of parasites, tons. And she sent me pictures. And she's like, I've never felt better. She's like, I just want them out. I feel lighter. I feel happier. I feel like mentally, my brain fog is gone. I feel clearer. What's next? Like, bring it on. you
Yeah.
know? And so I love when people feel that, because
Yeah.
that's how I felt when I went through the process, which is why I work with one of the companies that I work with called Cellcore that does this process, because I had that lift. I felt like, right, like
Mhm.
gone.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, I don't have parasites. I don't ever eat sushi, but I'll tell you, if you garden or you walk barefoot or you swim in a lake or you drink water in other countries, um, or you eat vegetables,
Yeah.
probably have parasites.
Yeah.
And they're not bad things. Parasites they live within us, right? They live with us. They don't have any malintent. They're there to actually gobble up the gunk
Yeah.
that is bad for us, especially radioactive elements we get a lot from our water. Um, they feed them very well. So if you're taking in tons of toxins, your parasite load is probably pretty high, and you'd
Yeah.
probably feel pretty amazing if you let them go.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, of everything that you've done and evolved to in your life at this point, what are you the proudest of?
Probably my kids,
Yeah.
right? I mean, professionally, I'm not even close to where I'm gonna go. My mission is not, I feel like my mission is not my own. Like I told you early in this conversation, I was in health for a while and then kind of went down a couple of different paths with different companies, and I'm very curious about things. And I feel like during my last relapse, when I was very sick with Lyme disease, God and I had a conversation and I said, fine, I'll do what you want me to do. I'm in it to win it. So now, and I have an amazing therapist who's also a shaman, and she always reminds me that I'm a vessel.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. That's my highest hope, is that I can be a vessel for whatever information I'm supposed to share with the world. Here I am.
So
So I
that's a
so I stand on national stages, Joe, and talk about poop now.
Yeah, that's fine. That we all need to do it. Everybody does it. I remember that kid that book when we were kids. So that's a perfect lead into my question here. Everyone, all of these people that you speak to, that are clients that have known you, all have a perception of who they think you are, family and friends. But you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a really curious, young-hearted soul who's here to do some work. And I'm still trying to figure that out. But I think, like I said, I believe now that I am this vessel. And I am always studying and learning. And it's interesting because it happens to me all the time. I will go down a rabbit hole somewhere in a research paper. I'll learn something really obscure. And then 2 days later, someone will come to me and say, have you ever heard of Baba? It's just like uncanny. And I'll say, actually, I just read a whole paper and had a conversation with someone about, herbs that are effective for whatever. Um, that happens a lot.
Yeah. So if anybody out there that's riding the line right now, they've listened to this and they're trying to say, should I reach out? Do I have a problem? What would you say to urge people to reach out, to look into it a little further, to take action?
I would say, if you're not feeling well, if you have symptoms today and you're not doing anything about it, they're only going to be worse tomorrow. There's no way, right, for you to heal if you don't understand what's happening. It doesn't have to be me. I can't service the world, but there are healers and there are therapists and there are energy workers and there are functional med people, um, that are waiting for you. Right? That's what we do. We send out our message and we wait for people who are ready to heal. When the what is the quote? When the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah,
So someone will listen to this and it'll catch them on the right day and they'll say, okay, she's right. Today's the day. I really need to call start with the dentist. If you haven't been to the dentist in 2 years,
yeah,
start there.
yeah,
Start taking care of yourself. We live in such a toxic world, Joe, that we can no longer afford to not know. We
yeah,
can no longer afford to say, I'm just going to trust the doctor and do what they tell me to do.
yeah,
We can't afford it.
yep,
We can't afford to drink the tap water. We can't afford to eat most of the food that's in the grocery store. Not if we want to be healthy.
yeah,
And if we put on a blindfold and continue our ways, you're going to wind up in a not a good situation.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
cancer rates in this country are ridiculous.
I know. They are. They certainly are. There was a guy that has the world record for eating the most Big Macs. That's all he eats, and he drinks Coke with it, and he's fine. His doctors say he's fine. He's been doing it forever. Don Gorski. There's just certain things out there that just blow my mind. There's people that are just living their lives, doing their things, and things that happen with you take place. But then you got this guy that all he'll eat is Big Macs, and he's totally fine. That's the mystery of being a human being on this planet. You just have no idea how it all shakes out in the end.
Exactly. And that's yeah, you can't judge, you're not the same. That's why when people come to see me, they're like, I don't understand. My sister's brother's cousin took Linzess for, 2 years, and now all of a sudden he doesn't have a problem and he's great. And I took it once and I'm super sick. Yeah. We're all biochemically independent. And for anybody out there who's like struggling with the constipation, the chronic constipation, you need to fix it now, because if you don't, the toxicity that you're accumulating is devastating.
I remember my son's been on the spectrum. He's on the spectrum and he's 19 now. And I remember very early on, one of the therapists said, when you meet one kid that's on the spectrum, you've met one kid on the spectrum. And that's just the way it
Yeah.
is. Every single one of us is like a computer program. We have all of these zeros and ones in every single, it's like fingerprints. No one has a fingerprint that's alike any others. It's
But
wild.
not only that, you can try something today, Joe, and it can work for you. For instance, like you want to start intermittent fasting and you start today and you do it for 3 months and you feel amazing. And then you go off it. And 2 years from now, you want to try it again and it just does not work for you.
Yeah, I get
Right.
it. Yeah.
So we all have to be doing these micro experiments on our own health all the time. All people always ask me like, well, what should I be eating when we're talking about constipation? And while there definitely are some rules of things to be avoided and things that we should be eating, you know, you know what you're eating that's
Yep.
bad for you. The junk, the stuff you're sneaking that you didn't put down on your food journal. Like, right?
Yeah.
So we're all biochemically individual, and like, I know when I talk to my clients, for instance, foundational health, we talk a lot about, right? So before we can, if you have people listening to this and they're like, oh, I'm taking NAD and doing vitamin C IVs and, way, way ahead stuff, but they're not sleeping well, or I get to the gym 5 mornings a week, but they're only getting 5 hours of sleep, right? Or they're completely dehydrated and running on empty, right? If they're not taking care of nutrition, hydration, mindfulness is a big one, movement, and sleep, that's where we need to start
Yep.
in foundational health. Once we've mastered those, right? Once you've mastered some good nutrition basics, then you get to branch out and try interesting supplements that could then benefit. But you can't eat a crappy diet and then take a multivitamin and
Yeah.
expect magic.
It's a holistic approach. So if anyone out there wants to reach out, learn more about what you're doing, hire you any of the good business, where do they go?
So the best place I would encourage everybody to go is startpoopingbetter.com, because there you'll find some tips for constipation, a recipe for good poop vegetable soup, which everyone should be eating. It's got tons of great vegetables in it. An intestinal transit time test you can do at home. That's great. You can definitely download the ebook there, or my website, which is my name, melissahallklepacki.com. Lots of information there.
Excellent. This has been fascinating. Melissa, thank you. Thank you for your time. Keep doing the great work.
Thanks so much. Wonderful to share.
Yes.